Coming up on Discode, I'll tell you the first step you should take to ensure you're producing quality Java code. Hey there, my name is Jeffrey Fate, and I want to share the learnings that I've gathered over the last decade and a half nearly of working with software engineering and from a quality lens. And I want to be as transparent as possible during this entire process of sharing what I've learned and sharing what are good practices to make sure you're producing quality code. Java code. That's what I know best, so that's what we're going to talk about. I know one doesn't fit all, one code, one language, one tool, one whatever doesn't fit all, but that's what I know, so that's what we're going to talk about. Now, right now, I'm recording this episode 0, I like to call it, because, I don't know, we'll see how it turns out, but I'm in my car because that's the quietest place. Hopefully the audio turns out well. And I'm just kind of going on a rundown that I created based on some practices other podcasters I know are using. So we'll just get it going and see how it goes. For now, it's just going to be me, but I'm going to do my best to try and bring out other voices that are experts in quality coding, Java coding, both software engineering in general, but trying to focus on quality and trying to focus on Java. This week, there's an interesting aspect that really coincides with this first topic that happened to me at work, which was I started coding a solution to a problem before I tried to design it, basically. So when you get a new car, like a feature or a bug or something, a lot of times you just want to jump in and code it right away because that's what's fun. That's what coding is all about, right? Well, not really, because sometimes when you jump in, you may get over your head a little bit and not think through everything ahead of time, not necessarily have all the chips on the table, so to speak, or know the code base very well. So we're going to talk a little bit today about feature design and testing your project or feature ahead of time, making sure that what you're going to code is what you mean to code. So now I'll lead that into the first segment, which I am calling Quality Code. The first item is just a tip. So we'll start with that. When you're chunking up work, again, in that realm of before you code, trying to figure out a feature, trying to solve a bug, when you're chunking up work, try to create the smallest possible work items that still stand alone to provide value. This is a mantra of Agile, I believe. I don't know. Agile sort of gets muddled depending on how you use it and what aspects of it you like. But the best solution to coding something that is logical is to find the smallest logical piece that provides value. So if you are building a front end that takes an email address and sends out reminder emails for you to, I don't know, take the dog out for a walk. What's the smallest value you get out of that? It's going to be providing reminders. It's going to be creating a mechanism where somebody knows that oh crap, I got to take the dog out for a walk. It's not like all the little niceties and all the little cool little features about, getting pretty notifications or getting a phone call about it, or all the little features you can add on to something dumb like that. But you just want to get the smallest possible value out of it, and then you can build from there. You'll probably learn something along the way, or you'll be reminded of something. So find the smallest thing you can do that provides value. All right, on to the main topic under quality code. Project or feature design. I just wrote a blog post actually on FDD. I'd never really taken a look at FDD before, feature-driven design, but it's basically this in a more detailed kind of step-by-step process. But you want to, from a feature or project aspect, you want to test your validity. You want to test how valid what you're trying to build is. So take an example again. So if you're building this notification system that reminds people to walk their dogs, you want to build something that is the basic, and you want to be able to send that out to people to find out if what you built is worthwhile. Is it valid to solve the solution you're trying to solve? So this is also, MVP, you can call it that. I don't like to use kind of that lean startup. Some of the terms are a little bit played out, or a little bit, people kind of brush them off, or they're obvious, that kind of thing. But basically it's an MVP, minimal viable product. So test whether or not it's a good idea. And when you're developing this thing, you want to start with something large. May not be too large. Obviously you don't want to get huge, but you want to start with something large and keep dividing it in smaller and smaller chunks until that small chunk is, again, the smallest possible work item that will stand alone to provide value. This should give you something that's reasonable to work on, but is still contributing. It's not just a line of code, or it's not just editing the design of a front end. It's providing value, but it's still small enough to cycle on, to build and then to iterate on one more time. You don't want to get huge, because you'll bite off more than is reasonable, and you'll end up spending a week when it should have been a day. The next check is to find the highest priority items. So now this sort of breaks down or coincides with what I was talking about earlier, but if you have heard of the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, use that to determine what the highest priority items are. This may be different than what other people have used to find high priority items. So in the 80-20 rule, you want to find or at least in this case, you want to find the items that will provide 80% get you 80% of the way there with 20% of the work. So what will provide the most value for the least work? That's what you want to find out. You can kind of brush all those other things aside that you decide are, maybe it'll take 50% of the work to get you 50% of the way there. You don't want to do that. You want to do the ones that were the biggest bang for the buck in the way of work and effort they're going to take to finish. So that's what I wanted to focus on today for getting you to quality code. I know this isn't really coding or talking about quality in general. This is really where you want to start anyway. You want to start with the overall design, and you want to start with just getting something out there that will send you down the right path. Now time for a little bit of a personal update. I'm going to keep doing this until it doesn't make sense anymore, until you tell me to stop. So I have decided that I need to branch out and diversify my work, I guess, value, income, however you want to look at it. And I wanted to find something that is not work, that I could still do, that might provide a little bit of income, and it will keep me in the same area, my expertise, because I've had a lot of time mulling all this stuff over in the way of software engineering and quality. So I've started to develop a course, and this is sort of the big thing people say is happening between podcasting and online courses. So what the heck, I give it a shot. I got lots of experience, so I'm currently in the very beginning stages, I would say. I've created a lead magnet that is an overview of how you would go about determining where there are some performance issues with your application, specifically Spring Boot in AWS. So I actually ran into this same problem a little while ago at work, as well as other times in the past, but luckily my current position gives me a lot of freedom into what I can do and how I can solve problems. So the solution in a nutshell is to use Spring AOP, aspect-oriented programming, to log performance numbers for methods throughout the code. This way you can both search and alert on areas that are taking way too long than you think they should be, and it'll help track down those points, maybe where you're looping too many times or you're doing too much work inside of a loop. And you can eliminate those or extract them out or do something to alleviate those performance issues. And I've done that in our large Spring Boot app to help a new feature speed along a little bit. So I've created the lead magnet. I'm working on the landing page right now. So I want to get all that done, and then I want to bring on people. I know people were always saying that it sounds sleazy or whatever to do marketing, but I mean, I feel like I have value that I can provide to people that are maybe just a few years behind me, that I can help them get a leg up, and I want to give that value and find people that will find that useful. So I'm trying to build a list of people, an email list, where people will be interested in what I can provide. So that's what I'm working on next, is an email sequence that can give people a little bit of value while I'm still building the course. But give them a piece of value, which is this guide of sort of an overview of this process of creating or improving your performance by creating this logging and mechanism in your Spring Boot app. So that's where I am. The next step is once I finish the email sequence, is to find a way to find these people. And if you are one of the people, then you can contact me. I'm Jeffrey D. Fate on Twitter, or you can email me. Right now it's FateJD, which is FATEJD @gmail.com. You can email me if you want. I'm also getting into blogging more. I've gone into blogging on and off, but right now it feels like it coincides so much with this podcast and developing a course that blogging should be there, it should be easy, and it should be fun, which it has been. I've just started doing it again, seriously, and my first post, as I mentioned earlier, was on FDD. It's fun to just kind of play around with it, see what works, see what's fun, what people like, what people hate. So we'll see how that goes. I'd like to focus mostly on finding technical solutions to problems, but the first one's more process and ideals and those kinds of things. But I will try and focus mostly on technical problems, because I find many different technical problems to many different technical solutions during my day-to-day work. And of course, this podcast, I've just started. This is episode 0. So if there's anything I can do to make this better, if you have any suggestions, you can tweet me, Jeffrey D. Fate, and I will definitely take them into advisement. Or if you're an engineer who wants to get their name out there, who wants to be known by people, who's focused mostly on quality and Java, then let me know and you can come on. We can share our thoughts on everything that has to do with those areas. So it'll be fun. This is the kits section, I call it. So I'm going to talk about kits. What's a kit? I don't know if people are familiar, but there's a site called kit.com, and I have a couple of kits in mind. I haven't actually created them yet, but they will be at kit.com/JeffreyFate. But the two main ones that I'm thinking about is coding, obviously, the coding kit. Now, kit.com kind of focuses on buying stuff, I think. I'm not really sure what their business model is, but I don't think a lot of the coding stuff will be physical items you can buy. It'll just be ideas or software that I use or methodologies or something like that. So the first few items I have are, I use IntelliJ Ultimate mostly because it's so Java friendly, because I end up coding Java pretty much almost always. And then the second one is VS Code. Those kind of live side by side. I'm using VS Code right now to do a lot of markdown editing, which I find it's pretty nice to do that and then check it in quickly. And it's got a nice interface. AWS for the cloud. I've just been in AWS in a lot of positions in the past, and I do like Azure and some of the other ones, but AWS is just, it's ingrained, so I don't know what else to do. I'm stuck, I guess. Going into more Java and frameworks and tools, I love Lombok, Project Lombok. It helps you create immutable objects without hardly any code. Check that out. That is really helpful if you want to create quality code by using immutable data. Juice for dependency injection. I know Spring, it obviously has its own dependency injection, but if you're not using Spring, I really like Juice. And then Spring Boot is what I'm using at work right now, and I think it's a really robust set of framework tools. Now the other kit I have is cooking and kitchen items. So I haven't really vetted this out completely, but I started taking the ideas from Andrew Ray, who produces Binging with Babish, which is a really great cooking show. At least it's entertaining, but you can also learn how to cook. So it's nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, some of his recipes are really, they're taken from TV and movies, so they're outlandish, and he spends a ton on it. But anyway, I'm taking a lot of the kit items from him. So the first few things are getting some good quality pans, getting a really big cutting board, because you need a lot of cutting surface if you're going to cook. I mean, chopping, those kinds of things. A good knife that feels good in the hand. I have a few different ones, and I found that a medium-sized blade really works well for most things. Obviously, you might need a bigger blade for cutting bigger things. And then olive oil you need that almost all the time. So I'm going to stop there because this is not a cooking podcast, but I just thought I would share those items that are favorites of mine that you need to have to do cooking well, I think. At least the basics, the very basics. Anyway, I hope this hasn't been too ridiculous or boring, but I will do my best to make it better next time and improve the audio quality, the producing, the content, everything. I'm just going to keep going at it. It may suck for a while, but I think eventually it'll get better. As with most things, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And remember, quality counts.